Hello and welcome to Stillness in Success. I'm your host, Mustafa Nuristani. And today I've got a very, very exciting guest for you, all the way from the US, connecting with me. And before I introduce my guest, I want to just remind you to go ahead and subscribe and share with your family and friends this beautiful episode that you're about to watch. Now, this person I've been chasing for a little bit to get an interview, but they're so busy in their whole life that I had to get him in the middle of the night. And also, the time difference between Australia and US is a little bit complicated. So, I'm really deeply grateful for a very well known scientist, a professor, Dr. Fred Travis, to join me on this podcast today. Dr. Fred Travis, thank you. Welcome.
A pleasure to be here, Mustafa.
So,
Good.
your research in terms of meditation and what it does to the physiology, but also our neurophysiology, the changes it creates in the brain functioning and cognitive function. So, you've done research with meditation that includes transcendental meditation. There's mindfulness. There's also these different, really difficult meditations that people do, like focus, attention, Buddhist meditation. What is the difference between these different types of meditation?
This is a very good place to begin because every meditation is exploring inner subjectivity, but they do so with different procedures. You use the term focused attention. That's actually one category of meditations, and it includes vipassana, Zen, compassion meditation. It's any meditation which tries to restrict what the mind is focusing on by keeping it focused on one thing. Like in Vipassana, breath focus, you focus on the abdomen moving in and out until that completely fills awareness. And what's found in these meditations, because you're focusing the mind, what you see is the EEG of focusing and using cognitive processes. It's called gamma. It's very fast. It goes up between 30 to 50 times per second. And this is the frequency band also of being aware of outside experiences. Now, and these meditations require maximum effort. And then in the middle is a second category called open monitoring. Open monitoring is now, rather than restricting what you're experiencing, keeping one thing in the mind, you allow all experiences to pass through awareness, but you do so with a very open attitude. It's non-judgmental. You don't try to control it. You don't try to fix it. You just note it and let it go. Mindfulness is in this category, also Zazen. And what you see when the mind is just following ongoing mental processing, you see a different brainwave. The label is called theta. It comes from the hippocampus and memory centers. It goes up and down about 5 to 8 times per second. And this is seen in all memory tasks that you're doing. It's seen whenever you're following internal mental processing. And this is a brainwave you see during that category of meditation. Now, there is a third category of meditation, and this involves minimal effort, and it's called excuse me, it's called automatic self-transcending. In these meditations, you start with thinking, but then you end up with being. You start with the mind engaging in some thought, but you end up with the mind just being silent, almost like a wave settling down to an ocean. And in this category is transcendental meditation. And the brainwave is different because the procedures are different. What you see is in the 8 to 12 cycle per second range. It's called alpha 1. It's the lower end of the alpha band. And it's primarily seen in the front of the brain, and it's associated with higher blood flow. It's associated with wakefulness, not the wakefulness of thinking and processing, that would be gamma, but rather the wakefulness of just being alert. And so with these different frequency bands, what we have is a physiological way to explore different meditations and explore their effects.
Beautiful. So this is very interesting because one of the things that people also say is like, is it the same as being asleep? If because you're also not doing anything in sleep, you're just being, you have no experience. Is it the same, or is it is sleep a different function of the brain where we experience different waves?
Great question. Sleep has a whole different purpose. The brain waves are different. It's a very large, slow wave. It's called delta. It goes up and down 1 time per second. And during the deepest parts of sleep, what's actually happening is the brain is getting rid of the effects of the daily activity. It's called sleep dirt, because when the brain is processing the world, it's using neurotransmitters and transporter molecules, and these break down because they're being used and reused, and they break down, the metabolites just sit in the brain. Science calls it sleep dirt. You make about 7 grams of sleep dirt a day. And now this is not due to stress, it's not dysfunctional, it's just that you're using relative structures. 7 grams fills a teaspoon heaping. And what happens during sleep? And during sleep, yes, you're not aware of the outside world, but also there's no sense of self. During sleep, you close your eyes at some moment, things get foggy, it cuts off, and then you wake up and you realize you're coming up from blackness. The sense of self has been cut off. But it's during that time that what is happening is the support cells, the glial cells, the white blood cells, the astrocytes that are around the neurons, they actually they recede from the neurons. So the space around the neuron is larger. And what it does, it pulls the cerebral spinal fluid, interstitial fluid, over the neuron and washes out the sleep dirt. This is what sleep is doing. It's a huge process. And that's completely different than TM. In TM, you don't have content, which is similar to sleep, but what you do have is awareness. And it's not awareness of things and experiences and like that, but it's just awareness, alertness, silence. It's the most universal part of who we are. It's that part of us at the source of thought. When the thought settles down, what is there? And that's what you experience during TM.
That's
And
so
the effects are
beautiful.
different.
Yes, I'm
Uh,
sorry. No, I'll let you finish. The effects of those two different experiences are completely different, and I'll let you explain. Yes.
okay. And the effects are different. So with sleep, it's removing sleep dirt. The transcendental meditation, what you're doing is giving the brain a whole new style of functioning. And that's not a specificity, but of global wakefulness. And what this is doing is it's strengthening those circuits. And then those circuits, which are the signature of the brain just being awake, alert, begin to permeate waking, sleeping, and dreaming. So what you're doing is you're bringing that brain signature, which is underlying a specific experience, into waking. And what it means for you as a person is you become less and less lost in the ongoing experience. A sense of self, of wholeness, silence, stability, evenness, that's beginning to be added to every experience. And it creates a very quiet crossfade where you find that you're more centered, you're less affected by what's going on, you enjoy things more, you have a bigger perspective, and so on. That's what transcending during TM is doing. Sleep is important, it's keeping the body going, but it's a whole different purpose.
Yeah, it's very beautiful because people are like, oh well, I sleep, and then so I don't need to do this meditation thing because my sleep is really good. And what I also hear is people say that, oh, I sleep so deeply, I didn't even know I was asleep. I could sleep at any moment, and I could just close my eyes and I will fall asleep. And and then I'm not sure how good that is in terms of the wakefulness that an individual has if they're able to just sit on a couch and fall asleep, sit on a bus and fall asleep, sit at a meeting and fall asleep. I'm not sure if that's a good quality, or is it?
It's actually a marker of Mustafa of sleep deprivation. When you take any type of insomnia instrument, they often ask, do you go to sleep when you're sitting in the bus? Do they go to sleep when you're sitting in front of the TV and so on? If so, you're not getting enough rest at night. And about 60 to 70% of adults do not get enough rest. What they would do is prioritize activity. They'll stay up late to get a project done. And they won't think, well, how will I feel in the morning when I wake up? I'll be groggy and I won't be creative and I might be a little grumpy and so on. But our society is so built on doing and going, and with the internet on 24/7, and with we can talk. Here we are. It's midnight. It's night here. It's daytime there. The whole divisions of time and space are breaking down. So people are beginning to lose the importance of rest, of silence, of sleep. Sleep is necessary. Some people only need 4 hours of sleep a night, and they're fine. Some people need 10 hours. And that's the tricky thing. You need to find out how much sleep you need, and then you can optimize your waking activity.
And the other point is, before I make my other point, I just want to say that you did mention that sleep is really important, and then you are here awake in the middle of the night making this call. But it's a only once in a while thing, so we are grateful for that.
Yeah.
The other thing is that the experience that you spoke about of silence, of being present, that is cultivated through the practice of transcendental meditation, which is the most important experience because it allows you to enjoy your life with your family, your work, your study, your colleagues, because you are not lost. It's like, I'm here, I'm thinking about that and that and that. No, I'm here and I'm really here. And then when I move on from here and I'm with my family, then I'm really with my family. And that creates so much more fulfillment in life rather than running and running and running and not having the foresight that if I sit and work on this project until 12 and I have to present at 8 a.m., what am I going to present as? That foresight is not there because the experience of being is not there. The experience of being present is not there. The prefrontal cortex is not really planning properly. Correct?
Correct. Very clearly spoken. You brought up the prefrontal cortex. It's right here. It's behind the forehead. And that's the boss of the brain. That's association cortex. It gets information from the back of the brain, which is where all senses come in, emotional centers, memory centers. It puts it together. It directs our day-to-day world. It takes past and future. It keeps values going. This part of the brain begins to slow down about 9 o'clock at night. So if you try to do complex work after 9, you can't do it. The brain circuits are not there for it. Also, if you're under high stress, if you're under high stress, prefrontal cortex goes offline and you get tunnel vision. That is, you see things really clearly, but it's only what's in front of you. You just don't have the big picture. What transcendental meditation does is it uniquely affects prefrontal cortex. What we will see is that the connectivity of that part of the brain is higher during TM practice, and that continues when you're out in activity. Also, blood flow to the prefrontal cortex is higher, while to the rest of the brain it's lower. What the TM practice is giving you is a state called restful alertness. Restful alertness, completely different from rest, from sleep, completely different from being at the ball game and there's 4 seconds left and your team has the ball. It's not that alert, it's restful alertness. It's that quiet, expanded silence, which then allows you to dive into activity. And gaining that state is just what you said. It has all those benefits because now you're not lost. You're not overshadowed in activity. Somehow you're as if you've taken a step back. You have this bigger picture.
This concept of being your authentic self, we're hearing it a lot out there, like, you need to be authentic and I want to be authentic and I want to be authentic. Can you, in terms of your research and also your expertise in this field of being a neuroscientist, what is the experience of being authentic look like in terms of our brain? If we're measuring a person who is authentic, what does their brain look like?
What I think it looks like is what we call brain integration. That is where you have EEG patterns seen when a person is transcending and that state of silence, wholeness, along with brain patterns of being focused, of dealing with the world. Because to be your authentic self, you have to not be lost in the object of experience. You have to know who you are, where you're going. You have to have that to evaluate where you're going. So this brain marker we see, for instance, in world-class athletes. We looked at 66 athletes who participate in world games, national games. We found those that 33 who finished in the top 10 for 3 seasons during their competitive career, they had higher levels of brain integration. And again, the integration of the brain pattern of wholeness, silence, this alpha 1, along with the brain patterns of being able to think and process. Same thing with world-class managers. We had 50 managers, 25 have been CEOs for 18 years or longer, and their company had grown during that time. Again, they had higher levels of brain integration. And we asked the managers, okay, what's your secret? And nobody said, I work harder or I'm smarter. They all said they could trust their intuition, a very quiet voice deep inside. I think this is a very practical way to describe what does it mean to have higher brain integration? What does it mean to have the brain patterns of silence, of wholeness, along with the ability to function? Because the intuition is that first wave coming from the very silent ocean of the self. And you're able to pick it up, and they were able to trust it. They would make $1 million deals based on that hunch. In business, you have to do that because you don't know all of the factors that are involved. You don't know what the economic climate is going to be like. You don't really know what is the trustworthiness of the partner in front of you. So it has to be on a level of intuition. And the world-class athletes, the world-class managers, that's what they use for their success.
Beautiful. And we had on this podcast an actuary who they're called the data scientist, and what they
Yeah, yeah.
do is they look at all of the data and then they create these reports that manage risk. And so you're absolutely correct, Dr. Fred Travis, because when it comes to a business deal, you can do all of your research. You could do your homework and you could assess the risk. But ultimately, and this is what the data scientist also said, is that it's only 7 out of 10 that they would get it right. So the other 3%, the three
Wow.
is on the level of hunch, which is what all of the business leaders that I've spoken to say, that you need to be able to have that ability to decide from the level of feeling, how does this feel? And the experience of transcending, the way you're describing it, is that experience that creates that silence, that opportunity for you to be completely silent, and then on that level, assess what is in front of you.
Beautiful, beautiful analogy. It's like a clear pond. If the surface of the pond is completely still, it gives a perfect reflection of everything around it. Each small things, and you can begin to see patterns between things. If it's choppy, you're really seeing limited, fragmented experience. And
Yeah.
this is a nice analogy for understanding, adding that silence to the inner core of who you are. And then that is becoming part of every experience.
Now, since we've been talking about this and you're speaking so highly of transcendental meditation, and your research is all showing that TM is basically the best meditation that one could do, have you learned transcendental meditation?
Yes, I have.
Okay,
I've
great.
been
And when did you learn?
uh,
Recently?
uh, quite a while ago. It was 1972.
Wow. And was there much research in 1972 on the benefits of transcendental meditation?
There were three major studies that Keith Wallace had produced and published in Science, American Journal of Physiology, and Scientific American. They're the top journals of science. He single-handedly legitimized using the tools of science to investigate meditation practices. And it's interesting, two of his key findings we've seen over and over. And one of them is transcending resets sympathetic tone. So,
Hmm.
what's sympathetic tone? It's just what is the baseline level of anxiety, of worry. And if sympathetic tone is higher, your mind is just constantly racing, and your feelings are going up and down, and you're not able to focus on anything. What TM practice does is it resets that during the practice, and then outside of meditation, it remains low. And this is what Dr. Wallace reported, and it's been seen in meta-analyses. It's been seen across with PTSD victims. It's been seen in children, university children, adults, and so on. So this is one very large finding that was there then. The other one is this idea of alpha 1 coherence. Somehow the brain is settling down. That is, you're not being involved in specificity, thinking and doing, but it can just settle down to its ground state. And I call it the ground state because the whole brain has the same EEG signature, because the whole brain is just awake. You're not thinking, your eyes are closed, so there's nothing happening in the visual system. You're sitting in a quiet room, so the hearing, touch like that is not sending information. You're not expecting or planning or analyzing, so frontal lobes are down. And what happens is the whole brain can just remain awake. So that's what he reported over in 1970 and 71 and 72. So that was the research that was there then, and those findings are still some of the most robust findings that we have about the effects of TM practice.
And was it those journals that you looked at and then came to TM about?
Actually, I was at a lecture and someone presented the research that was there.
How did you find
But
yourself in
it's
this lecture?
okay. I was at a soccer game, and
Okay.
my roommate was a semi-professional soccer player, and he had a girlfriend, and his girlfriend brought a blind date for me. So we're sitting there, and I guess I was quiet, and she said, "Do you meditate?" I said, "No." She said, "Well, you should go up to Cambridge. This is in Massachusetts, and you should learn transcendental meditation." And I don't remember what she looks like. I don't remember her name, but I went there. I came to the introductory lecture. It fits so well my experience. I was in a theater group before that. I was stage manager for summer, fall, winter, and spring when we go up and down the east coast of the United States. We would get to a place at 2, and by 7 we'd have to have a show up. Some days it was really easy. My mind was just completely clear. It was like just ticking off boxes. Other days it was walking through mud. It was walking through a fog. So when I went into the lecture and they talked about a mind having a vertical dimension, and we're usually only concerned with the surface of the mind, that's where we have the active ways of thinking and processing. Quieter levels of the mind we're not taught how to use. It completely resonated with that experience. And then they showed the research of the physiological effects. And so that resonance with my personal experience, the scientific backing was why I learned TM.
Great. And so can you tell us what was your experience like? Do you remember it? Your
I do.
first experience of meditation.
Yeah.
You hadn't done anything else. You were very, very simple with that lady, and you said, I haven't done any meditation. So this is your first experience. So then,
Exactly. Um, it was an experience of thoughts became secondary. Usually we're really involved. We're caught up in the thoughts. The thoughts became secondary, and this inner silence and peace and wholeness started to become primary. It's almost like there was a crossfade from being locked into a point to just expanding out. And the whole horizon was just there and whole and full and peaceful. And it was so simple. It wasn't an arduous task to do. And I learned later it's because TM uses a natural tendency of the mind. Because it uses a natural tendency of the mind, people are able to pick it up quickly.
yeah, it's so easy. I wasn't as lucky as you because I started meditating when I was 17 and I really wanted to do good at school. Like I really wanted to do good. And I was really anxious about the fact that I really need to do good. And so my guidance counselor said, "You need to calm down. Like you need to relax. You're doing good. Like everything is fine." And I was like, "No, no, no. I really need to do really good because I'm a refugee. I haven't had education for 6 years, and so I went
Wow.
from grade 4 to year 10, and so it was like a 6 year gap." And I'm like, and I'm
Wow.
gonna graduate in 2 years, and I really need to do good. Like I can't just, like. And so she was so sweet. she gave me these cassettes and said, "Okay, you need to meditate." And I was like, "Meta who?" And she said, "Meditate." Now, okay. And then I was listening to this lady telling me to imagine this, and I don't have much of a visualization skill. I can't imagine things. And so it was quite a arduous and difficult experience. But then, it faded away. I only did it for like a week or two or whatever, and then it faded away. But then I tried third eye meditation, and then I kept going back. I would hear someone say meditation, I would be like, but then when I heard about TM, and your experience is so beautiful, Dr. Fred Travis, because my first experience of, you know, just sitting and closing the eyes and doing TM was that complete silence. It feels like freedom. It just feels like
Yeah.
total freedom. You just feel completely free of all of these worries and tension, and I have to do this and all that. It was just gone, and I just felt just one, and I was just like, "Oh my God, I need to teach this." So that was big. Changed my whole trajectory of life, and yeah, became a teacher. Anyway,
Such a great
so
story because we're experiencing a fourth state of consciousness during TM. And that's why it's so transforming. It's not altered waking, it's not rest. It's actually a fourth state of consciousness. It's called being or just awareness, pure consciousness. It's the foundational experience. And we usually don't have a clear experience of it. Once we have it, it's completely transformational.
yes, and it's the other thing is that it's not you're not going out there to get that
Mm,
experience. You're already in there, and all you're doing
mm.
is just experiencing what's in there, which is so much more exciting than you having to work for it and try to gain something from the outside. Anyway, so I could go on and on and on about this, and I know it's getting late for you, and you've been so kind and generous with your time. I want to thank you for taking the time and speaking to us, and really grateful for your insights. And if there are more research that are coming in this field, then I will email you again, and hopefully you'll get it, and then we can talk again, and it'll be really
Good.
nice. So thank you for taking the time.
Thank you. And I hope when I come to Australia, we can meet.
Absolutely, we'll be at the airport picking you up with garlands.
That's a deal.
And I want to thank my audience. Thank you so much for your company and sticking around. Please make sure that you share this episode with your family and friends and give us a like. And we look forward to your company next week, where I sit again with another wonderful individual who will share their experiences with us. Take care.